Thank you very much once again for our new webinar, number 9. My name is Dr. Aminu Shitu from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at the Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, Nigeria. I'm one of the team members of the AfriScience network. You are welcome once again to our new webinar. I'm going to read the citation of the speaker. Isaac Olawale Albert is a professor of African history, peace, and conflict studies at the Institute for Peace and Strategic Studies, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He's a specialist in security analysis, early warning system, peace process planning, peace education, monitoring, and evaluation. He won the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa, Cordesrius Thesis Writing Awards in 1992 and 1994, respectively, for his MA and doctoral studies at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He joined the University of Ibadan's Institute of African Studies in 1993 and became a full professor in 2006, served as Director of African Studies from 2010 to 2013, the Pioneer Director of the Institute for Peace and Strategic Studies from 2015 to 2018, and the Pioneer Dean, Faculty of Multidisciplinary Studies, 2018 to 2023. He established the postgraduate peace studies programs of the Universities of Ibadan and the University of Ilorin, Nigeria, in 2000 and 2009, respectively. He was a research associate at the Center for Research on Inequality and Human Security, CRISE, University of Oxford, United Kingdom, from 2003 to 2007, and a resident fellow of the Rockefeller Foundation Bellagio Center in 2016. He is a fellow of Nigerian Academy of Letters, fellow and the governing council member, Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, fellow and board member, Society for Peace Studies and Practice, fellow, West Africa Peace Builders, Accra, Ghana, and member, Folklore Fellows, Helsinki, Finland. He's a full member of Chatham House in London, 113597, and a member of Nigeria's Tertiary Education Fund, TED Fund, National Standing Committee on Research and Development, R&D. He served as the regional board chairman of the West Africa Network for Peace Building, Accra, Ghana, from February 2015 to February 2017, and was a federal delegate to Nigeria's 2014 National Conference. He currently serves as the editor-in-chief of the African Journal on Terrorism, based at the African Union Center for the Study and Research on Terrorism, Algiers, Algeria. He's a member of the executive committee of the Cordesria. He served at various times as a consultant to the UNCHS Habitat, UNED, World Bank's Urban Management Program, USAID/OTI, DFID, Oxfam, IDASA, WANEP, United States African Command, Frederick Ebert Foundation, National Defense College, Abuja, Command and Staff College, Jaji, Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja, Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, the Presidency, Abuja, and the National Institute of Security Studies, Abuja. He has published extensively on issues relating to peace and security in Africa, and at the last count, he has published 36 books, 120 chapters in books, and 54 journal articles, 15 monographs, and 5 technical papers on issues relating to peace and security in Africa and beyond. His most recently published book, in partnership with Professors Badejo and Yahya, 2022, is titled Mediating for Peace in Africa, a first script in honor of General Abdusalami A. Abubakar. It was published by Bookcraft Africa. So let us welcome Professor Isaac Olawale Albert. I will allow you to begin your presentation now. Thank you very much, sir, for coming with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aminu Shitu. I've been introduced severally across the continent, but I think the way you handled it this evening is so good. So I appoint you as a narrator. We will look for an institution for you later.
Thank you, sir.
Let's first give you the appointment. So
thank you very much.
I really want to thank African Science Network for inviting me to give this talk. The topic, as you have been told, is preventing and resolving research conflict. Most of the things that I will be saying may not be totally new to you, but I think what will be new will be the perspectives from which I'll be looking at the issue. The second page of my PowerPoint, starts on the note that this presentation is not going to look at research as done by one person, but rather I want to look at research done in a team. Because if you are the only person that is doing the research and you have any conflict, it is yourself. You should be able to handle yourself. But we are now in a new world in which scholars are discouraged from working in silos. They are expected to work in teams. And therefore, the focus of this presentation will be on team research. What kind of conflicts are we likely to face when we are doing team research? And how do we navigate the problems? Now, we are doing this because on increasing basis, research projects now are becoming multidisciplinary, they are becoming interdisciplinary, and they are becoming transdisciplinary. In other words, when new research projects are announced, they are not announced in a way that forces you to focus only on your own specialization. You are expected to look at the issues broadly. And in the process of looking at the issues broadly, you are taken outside your immediate field of specialization. And to that extent, many of us will have to go to other disciplinary frontiers to get colleagues to join us in doing our work. Now, the more people you bring into your projects, the higher the chances of conflict, because each of us have been trained differently. Our academic orientations are different. We are coming into the research projects with different types of attitude, behavior, and therefore, we are most likely to get into one conflict or the other. Now, in the third PowerPoint, I try to look at what basically do we mean by conflict as reflected in the title of this presentation. What I have done is not to give you any technical definition of conflict, but to give you a definition that takes you straight into the heart of the matter. And by conflict is meant disagreement. You are saying there is lack of consensus. And of course, every research that is done must start from that context of conflict. The researchers are confused in terms of what the project should look like and how the project should be done. So, in other words, every academic project must start with a conflict. And therefore, We are saying conflict is inevitable when we are doing research. Now, what are the types of conflict that we are likely to see? I mean, I'm speaking generally now. We have 5, 6 broad types of conflict that we are likely to see. The first one is what is called intrapersonal conflict. Now, intrapersonal conflict is the conflict that you have within yourself as an individual. Something is saying to you, be part of this project. And another thing is telling you, don't be part of this project. Something is telling you early in the morning, wake up. And another thing is telling you, don't wake up. Now, intrapersonal conflict is the smallest, but it is the most dangerous. Because where you are unable to manage yourself, it might be difficult for you to be able to exist, in the midst of others. Then the second one is interpersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict is the conflict you have between yourself and another person. You need at least 2 people to be able to have interpersonal conflict. And I think that, that takes place in our life on daily basis with our wife, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends. It is a normal thing in life. And then 3, you have intra-group conflict. That is conflict existing within a group. It could be an academic group. It could be an ethnic group. It could be a religious group. That conflict is existing within the group. The group members know themselves very well, yet they have conflict issues. Then you have intergroup conflict. Intergroup conflict is the conflict between one group and another group. It could be a conflict between Christians and Muslims. It could be a conflict between one community member and another community member group. So groups are in conflict. And then the fifth one is national conflict. Conflict that is affecting the entire country. And of course, the last one, international conflict. Now, the next issue we want to address, pertains to the causes of the conflict. Why do people have intrapersonal conflict, interpersonal conflict, intragroup conflict, intergroup conflict, national conflict, international conflict? Why do we have these conflicts? The first reason, or the first causative factor, resources. We disagree over resources. And resources could mean land, it could be money, it could be, anything that you can possess and that you can deny others from having. Power is a resource. You are appointing commissioners for the state, you are appointing ministers. Power is a resource. And then the second reason why people are in conflict is differentials in value system. Values are the way you see life and how you think life should be lived. The religion that you give attention to or that you consider to be important, which another person might not consider to be important. So our values determine who we are. Our values determine who we relate with. Our values determine what we do and how we do them. And then the third one is psychological needs. Psychological needs are your preferred type of behavior. How do you behave? Are you arrogant? Are you compassionate? It has to do with attitude and behavior. And then the last one, of course, is communication. How do we exchange information, with others? The information we exchange, how conflictogenic are they? The kind of language you use against people, do they show respect? Do they show disrespect? So how do we communicate? So these are the 5 causes of conflict. So we have mentioned them: resources, values, psychological needs, and communication. Now, Our focus in this presentation is on research-related conflict. And I really don't need to define that, but what I've done in this PowerPoint is to say that it has to do with the kind of conflict that we encounter in the process of proposing, doing, and reporting our research. So when you're proposing your research, there are chances of conflict, occurring. When you are doing the research, you have possibilities of having problems when you are reporting or writing your papers and so on. So you have chances of conflict. Now, these chances of conflict that we have in research, we're saying here can take place, pragmatically along three axes. The first one is you can have conflicts around epistemology. Epistemology has to do with, it has to do with knowledge that exists, the new knowledge that you want to create. How do you define what is important in knowledge production? Now, in the process of debate, of discussing that, there might actually be disagreement among researchers. What do you study? And why do you want to study this one and not the other one? And then we can disagree also around theories. What existing theories will fit into what we want to do? And why do you consider it to be important? And what theoretical postulations can we actually take out of what we are doing? I mean, I've attended several proposal defense meetings where you find supervisors disagreeing over what theory, their students should use. Is this theory or that theory, And then the last one, the methodology. You can have conflict around methodology. And this takes us to the fourth PowerPoint. And the fourth PowerPoint is actually trying to locate researchers now, trying to locate us into conflict zones or areas of possible disagreement. Well, all of us as supervisors, we supervise our junior ones, and many of us aspire, or we are even PIs, principal investigators. So in defining teams, I call attention to four important areas here. As a doctoral supervisor, you might probably be working with other supervisors. You are supervising one student, but you have one or two supervisors. We are saying at that level you can have conflict. Then you also have project PIs, not TIs. Project principal investigators. You are like a manager of other researchers. And then we have assessors of projects. When I'm assessing for big journals across the globe, you are asked all kinds of complex questions. You answer them after reading the paper, and then before the journal publishes the article, in some cases, you see the publisher sending to you all, the comments of all the assessors. And then the journal will say, there seems to be consensus among the three people that assess this paper. And in some cases, they call attention to areas of your disagreement and ask if you want to reconcile, your opinions on the whatever. Then some of us are CEOs of research centers. If you are DG of a research center, you work in a team context. It's like you are the leader of a team, and then when we operate at these different levels, doctoral supervisors, project PIs, assessors, CEOs of organizations, we are all trying to achieve three main objectives. The three main objectives I call responsibilities. There is a need for us in the course of doing our work to ensure what I call institutional credibility. If you come into a department that is research oriented, you realize that one director performed better than the other director. Why? This is because this director that has performed better tried as much as possible to protect what I call institutional credibility. Institutional credibility, you want to ensure that the institution is one of the best. And when you are doing that, you are most likely to get into conflict. I belong to the University of Ibadan, and I had the opportunity of going to University of Ilorin for 1 year. And the vice chancellor before I came there was demonized, he's a bad person, he's whatever. But when I sat very close with him and I studied him, I realized that he was managing too many conflicts. And the point I'm trying to make is that when you are managing too many conflicts, you might be tagged as a bad person. But throughout my stay in Ilorin, University of Ilorin was growing. It was growing in ranking. All departments were improving. So in the process of protecting institutional credibility, you will find yourself to be more of a conflict manager, trying to manage many conflicts that people would have pretended that they were not there. You are managing them. And as you are managing them, you might be demonized. But at the end of the day, people begin to see positive results from your efforts. Now, when you are doing that, you are said to be investing on institutional credibility. Then the second one is personal credibility. You are improving yourself. You are improving yourself because you want better results. Now, as you are improving yourself, you will be involved in all kinds of conflicts that might be difficult for an outsider to understand. When I was doing my PhD, a woman came to the department and stood in front of my department and was shouting, you know, my husband has been on this PhD for this long. Enough is enough. We are hungry at home. You know, enough is enough. Release my husband to go. So now, but it's like the woman and the husband, we are having conflicts over bagging a PhD. The man was struggling on building his personal credibility, but the woman felt that probably this money, we should spend this money feeding ourselves. And when the man finished, he became a big person. And I don't know how the wife felt after that. The point I'm trying to make is that in our academic lives, we must be able to damn the consequences of improving ourselves. Then there is what is called procedural credibility. If you are in a system where you insist that procedures must be respected, you are most likely to be in conflict with people who don't believe in procedures. So the point I'm trying to make quickly so that I don't waste my 1 hour is to say that in the process of protecting institutional credibility, personal credibility, and procedural credibility, conflicts will be created among researchers. Now, my fifth PowerPoint, you know, pushes us deeper into the issue of research conflict. And I'm saying here that it is inevitable. If you are doing research, you must be in conflict. Whether you have the conflict internally or you have conflict with those who are funding the conflict. So we are saying conflict between team members in a research project can be detrimental to the quality, efficiency, and morale of the research process. However, conflicts are inevitable when people with different perspectives, skills, and personalities collaborate on complex tasks. Therefore, it is important to have analytical skills to identify, understand, and resolve conflicts in a constructive way. So, I'm assuming that my paper is an article because I want to write it in an article. You will learn some practical tips on how to do that. Now, I differentiated in this presentation between insider conflict and outsider conflict. The insider conflict is the one you have with the team that you are working with. You're a PI. You will definitely have conflict with your group. But the outsider conflict is the conflict that you have with outsiders. Those who funded the project, those who will be giving you data for the project, and those who might be using your research outcomes at the end of the day. Now, in the 6th PowerPoint, I tried to provide a framework for research conflict. And I said here that you can have conflict along 3 tracks. The first one is you can have a conflict before the project starts. You can have it as the project is going on, and you can have it at the completion of the work. Now, before, the conflict you have before has to do with framing the project. You know, you want to submit a proposal to TEDFund, for example, you need to frame the project. Now, the question is, who frames the project? Because I see this question being asked from time to time. Somebody somewhere sits down and says, look, I think this research is necessary, it's possible. The person frames the project and then brings other people to join him in strengthening the framing of the project. In most cases, that person is most likely to be the PI. Or I've seen situations where junior colleagues will identify some bright ideas and then they approach their seniors to be the PI, believing that their senior will help to frame the project in a better way, or that their senior has a fat CV that could support the project. Now, in the process of the project framing, there will be a lot of disagreement. I don't want to say disagreement per se, but everybody will not agree from day one that this is how the project should look like. So you need several meetings where you are coming in with all kinds of conflict management strategies to be able to reach agreement on what the research should look like. Now, if you are poorly trained in conflict management, you might end up with a very badly written proposal. The issues might not be good. The framing of the work might not be good. Some junior colleagues come to me sometimes to say, you told us that this project might not win this thing, and we didn't believe you. And look, you look at the work, and you see many conflicts built into the project that you cannot solve. So we are saying that framing of the project requires good understanding of conflict management. We expect you to have been properly trained on how to balance ideas and how to take ideas from different members of the group to be able to establish a project that will work. And then the second one is the team formation. There might be conflict over team formation. I've had friends who came to abuse me in my office to say you're a bad friend. You didn't include us in your project. Now, I didn't include them in my project because I knew that they cannot be a good team member, whether in terms of knowledge, whether in terms of emotional intelligence, whether in terms of, you know, people. Now, the point we're trying to make at the level of team formation is that don't bring sentiment into it. You are trying to get a project that will work. And at this level, you don't actually need to bring sentiment into it. My wife has a PhD in my field of specialization. There are projects I don't involve her in. I know her weaknesses, I know her strengths. So if at this level you introduce sentiment into it, that means you are not preventing future problems. If you want to prevent future problems, don't be sentimental in your team, you know, and then finally writing the proposal. Then during the project, can you still hear me? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Can hear you, sir.
Okay. Now, during the project, you may have problems with data collection. You may have problems with data analysis. You may have problems with report writing. Some students came to me. I mean, I experience this every year. You know, we have different fields of specialization in conflict studies. Then some students will tell me, I want to study the problems in Sudan. Now, the question I ask them is, are you going to get your data from Sudan? They say, don't worry, Prof, we will get the data. Then later they come back to me and say, look, they have stayed long on this project because they don't have access to data from Sudan. So in the process of collecting your data, you might encounter a number of problems. So the question is, how do you solve the problems? When I go out to do research, when I go out to do examination at different universities, and I see in some of the works, limitations of the work, delimitations of the work. Many students don't know the difference between the limitation and limitation. Now, some of them will be talking about the difficulties of getting data. They will tell you, yes, this work is on this, but we couldn't get information here, we couldn't get information here. Then the question I ask them then is, how did you write the work if you face conflicts? Because what is expected is for you to say, you face conflicts, and then you now say how you came out of it. Or if you did not come out of it, how you succeeded in writing down what you are presenting for examination. And then when analyzing the data, you might also face some conflicts. When writing the report, you might also face some conflicts. The question is, what do you do? Then after writing the report, and you want to disseminate the results, and there are different ways of dissemination. Probably you want to publish. Which journal are you going? Hello?
Yeah, sure.
Hello? Any problem?
No, you can go ahead, Prof, please.
Okay. Where do you want to publish? Where do you want to publish the paper? And I think one of the problems are faced with team research when it comes to publishing is that you have a specialist in veterinary medicine, you have a specialist in animal science, you have a specialist in agricultural economics. The problem that people usually have when it comes to publication is each of these people know the high impact journals in their fields of specialization. They want the report to be published in journals that will heavily reward them in their fields of specialization. You know, a veterinary medicine specialist, for example, might not want the team published in human physiology or whatever. So then you need to manage that conflict. You need to manage it. This is where we want to publish it. This is where we want to, and you know, you do it in such a way that everybody will get credit for it. And then the dissemination could actually be having a public meetings where you are actually presenting your your findings to a mass audience. Now, in front of that place where I broke this into two, you have team building strategies. I won't speak to that. Just you can read it later. But it is actually calling attention to the different ways of building your teams. Then our PowerPoint 7. Now it's coming to the heart of the work. Because in this presentation, I'm expected to talk about prevention and management. Now, for prevention, of course, we have called attention to several things you need to do as preventive measures. Not being sentimental, informing your teams, things that you must do before you even start the project. Otherwise, the project will fail. Now, you need self-awareness. Self-awareness of yourself as the PI. How tolerant are you? I have a weakness. I personally have a weakness, which I know I have. And that is to say that I cannot work with lazy people. I cannot work with lazy people. If you are lazy, even if you are brilliant, you cannot work with me. Because once I set my timeline, I want everybody to keep to the timeline. I may even finish my own part of the work before then. But this idea of meeting people after 1 month and the person saying, I went to greet my sister in Maduguri, I cannot tolerate that. So I know myself. And therefore, when I'm constituting my team, I cannot bring into my team people that I know to be lazy. But there are situations where you need to adjust yourself to say, look, yes, as my students tell me, sometimes they say, look, not everybody can work at your pace, so readiness for you to adjust yourself, readiness for you to transform yourself if necessary. But you must be ready to establish personal credibility, defend your institutional credibility through procedural credibility. And therefore, if you want to do any project, you must take your self-awareness into consideration in constituting your team, in setting your timeline, in identifying what is doable and what is not doable. But you are expected also as a team leader, for example, PI, to show respect for team members. You must have things that you may have to do to accommodate team members. For example, if I have women in my team, I allow women to go home early enough to go and take care of their children and their husbands. Because if you are too rigid, if you are saying everybody must close 9 o'clock on this project, you know that it will affect women, it will affect their children. So you must show respect for team members. You must be able to have some adjustments. And that is a conflict prevention mechanism. Then you must be able to take sentiments out of your research engagement. I think we have discussed that. You must also be able to close possible gaps in the proposal. There are times when we're writing the financial aspect of the proposal, we do not, build into the work sufficient resources for everybody. We just assume that the most important thing is for us to get the research grant. No, you must close all gaps, ensure that things are built out in realistic ways, because you can't get your members to go and manufacture data when you don't have resources for the data expected from them. Then you must have milestones for monitoring and evaluation. If this project will take 1 year, how many months are we spending in the field? How many months are we committing to analysis? And this type of questions will enable you to be able to take the team gradually to the end point. And there might be reduction of conflict, because everybody is aware that by April, we ought to have covered the following grants, and then by June, we ought to have done this. So it will not be it will not just be you bullying everybody around, but you have a document that is guiding you. Now, team members also are part of the team, whereas we expect the PIs, the directors, the supervisors to adhere to certain principles. We expect you also as team members to be familiar with the rubrics of the project. What is the project all about? And what are the milestones? The milestones, are they in tandem with your own ways of doing working? If we're saying we must produce results in 3 months, do you have the capacity to be part of that type of team? If you are not, better for you to stay out of the project than for you to remain in the project and become a problem to the other team members. Then you must also, as a team member, have appropriate values. If meetings have to hold 8 o'clock, you should be there 8 o'clock. You should not be coming 10 o'clock when the meeting has ended. And then if the budget was agreed on by everybody, you cannot come and begin to make outrageous requests, because the PI is not going to manufacture new money from anywhere. Then commitment to excellence. You must be sure that your own aspect of the work is well done. You must have team spirit, and then you must be emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence here has to do with when there is a conflict, the way you will behave will take into due consideration the fact that the others also have, they have their own values that must be protected. The 8th PowerPoint is now calling attention to specific conflict management strategies. Now I'm saying conflict management. I'm no longer using conflict resolution, because in security studies or peace studies, conflict resolution is a very powerful concept. What conflict resolution is saying is that you will heal the wound and at the same time remove the scar. In conflict, in human conflict, you may be able to remove the wound, but the scars will remain. And that is why some projects are completed, and after the completion or 2-3 years, you say, when that man was managing that project, he was just pushing us left and right. He was a slave driver. That is to say, you have not removed the scar. So, but when you say conflict management, you are looking at, it's like you are managing a terminal problem. Everybody is aware the problem is there, and you have done your best towards carrying everybody to a logical conclusion. Now, in conflict management, we have 5 response options, how people will respond to problems that would occur in a conflict situation, and research conflict inclusive. The first one is avoidance and denial. Avoidance and denial is saying a problem occurs in the team and you refuse to do something about it, or you deny it. Now, this could be positive or negative. Let us say, for example, a member of the team abuses you and you fail to do anything. In that case, avoidance and denial is positive, because probably if you had retaliated, the entire team will crumble, will collapse. But there are times that some people do things in a team that avoidance and denial might not be the best option. For example, a member of the group is always not coming to group meetings. He's a team member. He doesn't come to meetings. He doesn't contribute anything to the project. And you keep pretending there is no problem. That could actually lead to the collapse of the project, because you are all team members. And if that person was included on the assumption that the person is going to bring some values into the project, so If the person is not doing well, there's a need to call the person to order. Then the second one is what we call strategic withdrawal. Strategic withdrawal is to say that a member of the group or you notice a problem, you are not solving it, but rather you say the problem should be solved by another person. You know, if TEDFund gives you a project, if you noticed a problem in the course of managing the project, and you say, no, you won't deal with it, it is TEDFund that will deal with it, you are wasting your time. And I will give you an example here. Many, many years ago, British Council gave me a project. And I realized that there was the need for me to bring somebody in from the community where we'll be collecting data. And therefore, I told British Council, I want to work with social people in the community. And I said, well, when traveling from Ibadan, I don't want to go with cash. So pay into the account of this person. And we pay the money into the account of the person. And by the time I got to the community where the project was to be done, that person has spent the money. And it took time for me to be able to find transport money back to Ibadan. Now, I went to British Council and I said, look, we have a problem on this project. The person you paid the money into his account, spent it. And then the then leader of British Council called me to his office. He said, look, if you don't want to damage your personal credibility, go and look for money to do that project. We gave the project to you and not that person. And you instructed us to pay him the money. We don't know him. You nominated him. And I had to cough out my salaries for many months to be able to go back to the field and to do the work. Now, when I did the work and I was to publish it, instead of having 2, 3 names, I published it only in my name. Yes, it was published, but I was not happy because if those people, if their names had appeared in that paper, it would have strengthened it to say that I work with the community members. But the question is, how do you reflect the name of somebody who actually stole the money for the project, who never participated in the field work, who never sat with me for one day to write the paper? So the British Council told me, you're on your own. So I went and looked for the money and wrote the paper. Then the third one is for you to always fight everybody in the team, which is called confrontation. There is a problem and then you flare up. We expect you as the team leader to be more emotionally intelligent than the others because the success of that project depends on you. Then the fourth one is third-party decision making. You report the team member to a third party who you think will help you to talk to the person. And then the last one is joint problem solving. Joint problem solving has to do with always bringing the team members together to discuss whatever problems that you are having and then come to consensus on how it should be dealt with. Now, one of the last questions we ask is, now, what are you managing? What really are you managing? What are the issues, conflict issues that you are managing? One, you are managing quality control in the process of doing the research. Quality control. It's not just a matter of producing a report, but producing a report that is very strong. You are ensuring that all members of the team are bringing their best into the work. And then human agency. The human beings that you are working with will come with all kinds of attitudes and behaviors that you have to manage. And management of human agency is both internal and external. I heard, sometimes people will tell you, yes, we are frustrated on this project because they have only paid us 1 tranche. Since then, we've not gotten the second tranche and everybody is frustrated. Now, then you could also have you may be working in what we call focal environment. A focal environment is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. You know, you want to do the project in a community in Zamfara. The project already approved, the budget given to you. And then suddenly you discover that Zamfara State is volatile now. The environment is uncertain, is very complex and ambiguous. As the PI, you must look for your own ways of working it out. Do you want to interview people on phone? You must look for your own way out, because the project may not be able to wait for you. The timeline may not wait for you. Even if the timeline wait for you, it may not wait for you for 3-4 years. So you have to look for your way out. Now, the last PowerPoint, I call joint problem solving. Now, joint problem solving is the strategy that I think all of us must look for ways of getting familiar with in project management. And it has to do with when there are conflict issues in the project circle. One, all of you must jointly accept that there is a problem. All team members. It should not just be the PI alone that is saying there is a problem. So the first point is joint acknowledgement of the problem. To say there is a problem, and you must say precisely what the problem is. Is a member of the team creating problems? Do you have financial problems? Do you have problems of even how to understand the issues you are studying? Then the second one is that the team leader must develop appropriate conditions for solving the problem. You must be able to build your group dynamics. Make sure that everybody is working together. You work on perception. If the problem is a product of misperception, you have to explain to members that this is an artificial problem. You change attitude. Then joint definition of the problem. You must separate the problem from people. If things are not working, are they not working because of individuals, or because of the environment? Then all of you will generate alternative solutions to the problem, whether through brainstorming or rainstorming, and then you generate viable solutions to the problem. You evaluate the solutions you have generated and select solutions, and then you implement your solutions. Now, all that I've told you, there are probably things that we have been doing before, but the beauty of conflict management scholarship is that it places the strategies in front of you, so that when you are managing when you confront problems and you are managing them, you are not just managing them using your native intelligence, but you are following the books to say, when we have this type of problem, this is what we must do. This is what we must do. Before we start a project, we must think of personal credibility, institutional credibility, procedural credibility. And when you know that there is a person around you that is not credible, you say automatically to yourself, this person cannot be part of this project. So I think I've presented to you all that I have in the PowerPoint, and I think the questions you have will probably help us to put the presentation in wider perspectives. Once again, I want to thank you for inviting me. I want to especially thank Dr. Shitu and Dr. Yaya, Professor Shueton, University of Ibadan. So over to you. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Dr. Yahya, am I audible, please?
Yes.
You're audible. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, fine. I think without wasting so much time, we should go to the Q&A session. Let me check if there is any raising his hand. Okay, I have a Ogo.
Yes.
I'm trying to find a way to let him in. Dr. Yahya, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Could you allow Ogo Onyekachi?
Yes, he should please unmute himself.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Ogo,
here.
please unmute yourself.
Okay, I've done that. Good evening,
Okay,
Prof.
fine. Go ahead, please.
And then thank you for this lecture. Please, my question is this. Assuming one is giving fund to carry out a project, okay, that will probably last for 6 months or thereabout, and just 2 months into the project, inflation sets in, to the extent that the money given to you before cannot, in any form carry out that project. How do you handle this to still keep your credibility? Thank you.
Well, let me answer that quickly because several researchers are going through that now. I think the conflict management strategy that is needed here is joint problem solving, this joint problem solving approach. For you to quickly tell the funders of the project that this is the problem you are facing. It is advisable. You are advised not to just be spending money and you complain only when you have run out of cash. The moment you notice the problem, you write immediately to funders of the project to say, this is what is happening. A mail from them to say, your letter is thankfully acknowledged. The receipt of your letter is thankfully acknowledged. It's a conflict management strategy because now you have put them on the notice. They are aware that you are facing that problem. But when you fail to inform them, and then halfway into the project, you said the money is finished, it might be difficult for that organization to accept your submission because the money has finished. It may not be in tandem with the proposal that you submitted, the budget that you submitted. But we are saying here that what you need to do is to quickly alert the funders of the project.
All right. Thank you, Prof.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see if there's any additional question here. I don't have any hands, unless if somebody has a question to ask her.
If there are no questions, please, I will ask for the permission to, because I will be starting another webinar 8 o'clock. So
Okay.
I may need to prepare for that one too. If there are no questions.
Exactly. Okay. I think I will also say that for any question or anything regarding this webinar, I will suggest asking on the WhatsApp platforms, and I will share them all across. You will get them, and whatever your answer is, I will post them on all the 6 platforms. I think can we work like that, Prof?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Please give the PowerPoint to everybody.
Yeah, I will share it, and then we usually share the video.
Okay.
We upload it on our YouTube channel within 24 hours.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect. That's good.
So my vote of thanks, I'll begin by thanking Professor Isaac Olawale Albert on behalf of the AfriScience Network and all participants. I would like to extend our deepest gratitude for your insightful webinar presentation titled Preventing and Solving Research Conflicts. This is our webinar number 9. Your expertise, honestly, and wealth of knowledge in the field of peace and strategic studies were truly evident throughout this session. It was a privilege to have the opportunity to learn from you. Your talk touched on a crucial aspect of research that is often overlooked, honestly. I must say that, and your practical strategies for preventing and resolving conflicts will undoubtedly be invaluable to our members and the broader science community as we are going to upload it to our YouTube channel. And additionally, your emphasis on fostering collaboration as well and communication resonated deeply with our network's mission and values. We are truly grateful for the time and effort that you put into.
I think the network problem probably is with Dr. Aminu's network. I think, Prof, I would just want to add that there are, in the comment section, I'm not sure if you have had some time to look at it. Many people deeply appreciated the presentation I have, and we're very happy to be part of this. So on behalf of all those people and the admin, I would like to close the session today. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
sir.
Prof.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.